But first tonight, when you think of foods from Maine, there are certain classics that come to mind. Lobster, potatoes, blueberries, you know the list. Cherie Scott, who lives in Boothbay, wants to change that perception a bit.
She is the founder of a business called Mumbai to Maine, a name that reflects her journey from where she grew up, the city once known as Bombay, to where she lives now, the town of Boothbay. Her growing business sells sauces that are a staple of Indian cuisine, and it is the memory of the meals she loved as a child in Mumbai that turned Cherie Scott into an unlikely food entrepreneur. When you think back to growing up there, what stands out for you?
Street food. Street food, 100%. It is what I deeply miss about India, is that I just can't walk out there and have some shish kebabs at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just can't do that here in Maine.
The street food scene on the Boothbay Peninsula has never reminded anyone of Mumbai. Mumbai is huge, a teeming city with far more people than New York, a swirl of sounds and colors and aromas.
We lived like sardines in these tiny shoebox apartments with Hindus and Sikhs, Muslims, Parsis and Jains. They were all our neighbors. You know, somehow we just embraced each other's cultural differences and enjoyed each other's cuisines and food and cooking and participated in everyone's religious festivals.
How often would you eat street food?
Every single day, every single day. I would get a piece of corn on the cob. It'd be put right on these charcoal grills. And then the street vendor would actually take a piece of lime that was squeezed into cayenne and Himalayan salt, and then he would rub it all over the charcoal corn. And now picture me walking all the way home, 30 minutes home from school in this crazy heat in India with my heavy backpack, bigger than myself, eating this corn as I'm eating it, and I'm literally crying raw because it was so spicy. But it made me feel alive, and I felt like, wow, this is great.
With all their belongings packed into 12 suitcases, Cherie Scott's family left Mumbai and moved to Canada when she was 15. She and her husband came to Maine in 2008, and in 2015, when she began writing a blog about Indian food, she decided it was time to start making the dishes she loved as a child.
There was just one problem. I didn't know how to make anything. I didn't know how to cook a single Indian dish. And I'm truly embarrassed to share this with you, but I didn't even know how to make a dal. And a dal is the most basic elemental lentil Indian dish. It's stewed lentils.
So you were like me.
Yes!
You didn't know anything.
No! See, I knew we had something in common.
When she cooks, memories of her childhood come flooding back.
I'll smell something and I'll say, oh my God, that's my mother. And it's at certain moment when I'm making a dish and I smell it and I'm like, that's Mom, that's my mother, that's what I remembered.
After seeing Cherie Scott's blog, Stonewall Kitchen reached out and asked her to teach an Indian cooking class. Stonewall had no idea how little she knew about actually making Indian dishes.
And I thought, you know, this is perfect. I need to lean into this because there are others out there who are just like me. They don't know the basics of Indian cooking. And I would teach myself how to make it before I taught the class.
What you had going for you, though, was that even though you couldn't cook Indian food, was you had the memory of what good Indian food tasted like, smelled like, looked like.
Absolutely. There's no cooking school that can teach you that. You need to live through it.
The blog and cooking classes led to cooking demonstrations and lectures, then to a podcast. Mumbai to Maine was becoming a real business. How much did being in Maine help you market yourself? If you had been an Indian American living in New York City or Chicago or Los Angeles, would have been different, wouldn't it?
Very different. And that's why I said Maine picked me. I was meant to be here. This whole dream of Mumbai to Maine was not anything that I had in my head. It was nothing I had in my heart. It wasn't anything that I thought my life would turn out to be. Maine sparked it.
In December of 2020, Cherie Scott took her biggest leap yet. She began making and selling 3 Indian simmer sauces, each one inspired by the memory of the sauces she loved back in India.
When you made the first batch of sauces, did you have a commercial kitchen? Did you use a commercial kitchen to produce them?
You're looking at it.
Right here in your own home kitchen.
This was it. I have since then produced 10,000 jars on that stove.
Recently, the business hit a wall many food entrepreneurs run into. Sales had grown to a point where Cherie couldn't keep up with the demand, couldn't keep making sauces in her own kitchen.
I need to either go big or go home, and I'm already home, so I need to go bake.
2023 marks a turning point for Mumbai to Maine. Cherie Scott is moving production out of her kitchen to a commercial facility.
Good morning! Here we are!
Pemberton's Gourmet Foods in Gray, which will make and package her sauces, an estimated 30,000 jars this year alone.
What is absolutely a part of this story that we haven't talked about is the drive that you have, the energy and the vision that you have. Where does that come from?
It comes from being an immigrant living in America and never feeling like I belong here. So I need to keep reassuring myself that there's a spot here for me for that American dream.
Where do you want to take this business? Where do you want it to be in the next 3-5 years?
I am going to have global sauce domination at some point. I do want that. I dream really big. It's just who I am. It's what I do. And I always say, if you have my food, you know who I am. You don't need to talk to me. All my memories are in it.
So brace yourself for global sauce domination.
Exactly.
As you can see, Cherie Scott likes a challenge, and she was determined to teach me how to make a couple of Indian dishes. If you would like to see how that mission impossible turned out, tune in tomorrow.
Oh, can't wait for that. And if you'd like to find out more about Mumbai to Maine, just head to the 207 section of our website or our mobile app.